Wake up, samurai. We have a city to burn.
Welcome to MojoPlays, and today we're highlighting games that severely overpromised and underdelivered in almost every way imaginable.
It's good.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. Fable.
But in all his dreams of greatness, he could not possibly imagine the power of the destiny that lay before him.
Peter Molyneux is no stranger when it comes to controversy about promising gamers the moon and the stars when developing his games. For his fantasy RPG Fable, Molyneux promised gamers a realistic and reactive world unlike anything before it. Plant a tree and watch it grow in real time over the course of the game, get married and have a family, and should you die during your adventure, your heir would take up your quest. Seriously ambitious stuff, especially on the original Xbox. In the end, Fable and its sequels were well-crafted adventures that developed a dedicated fanbase, but were nowhere near the promised end product. Molyneux only recently seems to have learned his lesson because he would continue to hype up his games to ridiculous levels even after all the backlash over his previous broken promises.
All clear? Right. I'm gonna make a tactical withdrawal before they see me. Right. Good luck.
Mighty Number 9.
The Japanese government won't let us intervene until we know the cause of the malfunctions.
With the Mega Man franchise a shadow of its former self, series creator Kenji Inafune launched a Kickstarter for Mighty Number 9, a spiritual successor that ended up raising $4 million. However, after numerous delays and a not insignificant change to the game's art style, as well as one of the most bizarre marketing campaigns ever that openly attacked the fans that supported the game and helped finance its creation,
Make the bad guys cry like an anime fan on prom night.
Mighty Number 9 released to a resounding thud from both fans and critics. The art style was bland, the gameplay and graphics were unimpressive, and the entire experience was just mediocre at best. Had this simply been another indie Mega Man clone, it would have immediately been forgotten to time. But because it had that series creator attached, expectations were naturally much higher, and the result was ultimately that much more disappointing.
They are destabilizing.
She means that the whole place is coming down! Ah!
Katana.
If you would allow me to explain, Miyamoto-san, you need only spare me a few moments.
Go on.
If your game promises John Romero's about to make you his bitch, you damn well better deliver. Arguably more memorable for its marketing campaign than anything else, Katana was John Romero's first major project after leaving id Software, having been instrumental in the creation of classics such as Doom, Wolfenstein, and Quake. The game leaned heavily on Romero's involvement, but enthusiasm waned after multiple delays and development issues. Ultimately, Katana released a widespread ridicule and negative reception, critical of everything from the game's graphics to its gameplay, story, voice acting, and atrocious enemy AI. Katana immediately became one of the biggest financial disasters in gaming history, and is now remembered more for its failures than anything in the game itself.
But you can't go on like this. We've got to get you some help.
Aliens Colonial Marines. While there has been no shortage of Aliens-related games since the franchise's inception, Colonial Marines promised to be something special. Acting as a canonical sequel to James Cameron's Aliens and picking up immediately after the events of that film, and even managing to get Michael Biehn to reprise his role of Corporal Hicks, Colonial Marines looked to recapture the magic of the film in a way the games never had before. Unfortunately, upon release, it was revealed that most all of the footage demonstrated for fans was pre-rendered or vertical slices, and the game itself suffered a substantial graphical downgrade alongside abysmal enemy AI and just an overall mediocre and bug-riddled experience. This flagrant false advertising led to multiple lawsuits against Gearbox, and it wasn't until 2017 that a modder found a simple spelling error in the game's code that vastly improved the game's enemy AI. All too little, too late. Anthem.
Listen, there's trouble. Big trouble.
What did you do?
I made a mistake.
After the less than positive critical reception to Mass Effect Andromeda, BioWare was in desperate need of a win, and their upcoming action RPG Anthem looked to be the saving grace for the studio. With slick-looking combat and traversal mechanics, anticipation for Anthem was most certainly on the higher end leading up to launch. However, since EA is gonna EA, naturally the game was going to be a live service money printing machine, which alongside EA forcing BioWare to use the Frostbite engine, which wasn't designed for this type of game, the odds were stacked against Anthem. Upon release, not even the BioWare magic could save Anthem from itself. Almost nothing about it felt like a game developed by BioWare. The story was lackluster at best and non-existent at worst, the gameplay was incredibly repetitive, and even the world building was incredibly underwhelming. At least the flying was cool, so there was that.
It's warbling, right?
All readings fall within acceptable tolerances.
You gotta look past the numbers for once in your life. Something is off.
Duke Nukem Forever.
Mr. Nukem, will you sign this for me?
Sure, kid, but I better not find this on eBay.
Initially believed to be nothing more than vaporware after 14 years in development, only to be resurrected by Gearbox, Duke Nukem Forever nearly lived up to its title and never saw the light of day. However, that might have been a more merciful end for the egomaniacal alien-killing machine. Fans didn't care if the game was even going to be good or not, just that it existed. In the end, it felt like a game that came a decade too late, and barely managed the so bad it's good level of enjoyment. Fans were instead forced to slog their way through a pale imitation of not only Duke himself, but essentially every single first-person shooter cliché in the history of gaming. Even the series' trademark humor fell flat, with more people ending up laughing at the game rather than with it.
What about the game, Duke? Was it any good?
Yeah, but after 12 fucking years, it should be.
Cyberpunk 2077.
That's what I'm talking about! Alright, in and out! We're rich! Oh, we are going to the major leagues, Jackie!
After the universal acclaim of The Witcher 3, hype and anticipation for CD Projekt's next game was through the roof. Adapting the wildly popular tabletop RPG, every snippet of new footage or gameplay was meticulously analyzed by dedicated fans, and the inclusion of Keanu Reeves only added to the already sky-high hype.
Is really going to be breathtaking. You're breathtaking!
You would have thought 2077 was the second coming and going to completely revolutionize the entire gaming industry. Finally released in 2020, Cyberpunk 2077 was an absolute mess, especially on consoles, full of thousands of bugs and glitches and countless missing promised features. It was so bad, in fact, that Sony pulled the game from sale and even offered players refunds. Although CD Projekt did eventually deliver on all their initial promises and then some, the damage was already done, and most people remember the game for its terrible launch rather than what the game eventually became.
Think this is it, kiddo.
What's going on?
I made so many mistakes.
The day before.
I'm really glad to see you recovering so quickly. We've saved people from the outside before, but we practically pulled you back from the brink of death.
Initially revealed in 2021, The Day Before immediately became one of the most wishlisted games on Steam, promising an open-world, multiplayer zombie apocalypse more realistic and interactive than anything before it. However, many were immediately skeptical of every new piece of gameplay revealed, claiming there was no way this game could achieve this level of detail and suspecting it to be some kind of scam. After multiple delays and the continued sketchy behavior of the studio's founders, The Day Before finally released in late 2023, and was worse than anyone could have imagined. A ridiculously empty world devoid of any of the content promised, countless asset flips and game-ending bugs were just the tip of the iceberg. It was just overall a horrendous experience that didn't even seem to know what kind of game it wanted to be for those who tried to play. Fantastic pulled the game from sale only 4 days after launch and shut down servers a month later.
Just take care of yourself and come back alive, and the rest doesn't matter, okay?
Suicide Squad killed Justice League.
So, show me what you got.
Rocksteady had earned themselves a lot of goodwill amongst players with their Arkham trilogy being the definitive interactive Batman experience. And with their newest title continuing within that universe and expanding to Metropolis alongside familiar characters from the Suicide Squad taking on the Justice League, anticipation was through the roof. However, the more players learned about the game, the less enthusiastic they became. A multiplayer-focused live service game complete with loot boxes, battle passes, and microtransactions was the last thing fans wanted from the studio. With bland, repetitive gameplay, a story that insulted the legacy of its characters, and all the greediest practices in the industry crammed into a single game, in the end, Kill the Justice League killed more than just a superhero team. It nearly killed Rocksteady itself.
Are we done with your bad stand-up routine?
Almost. But you always gotta end on your best joke.
No Man's Sky. Sean Murray might be this generation's Peter Molyneux if he's not careful. No Man's Sky promised an open-ended experience unlike anything before it. A galaxy's worth of stars and planets to explore, all with procedurally generated wildlife and vegetation, epic starship battles, and the ability to do all of this with your closest friends by your side. Sean Murray's promises seemed too good to be true as he continued to do the press tour showcasing the game leading up to launch, and in the end, it truly was unlike anything players were expecting, in all the worst ways imaginable. It even led to a couple of lawsuits over misrepresentation. However, to their credit, Hello Games stuck with it and ended up delivering the promised experience and then some, making No Man's Sky one of the best games of the generation. Let's just hope Sean can keep his promises in check from now on.
Real open world, right? Something without boundaries. And we're gonna let everyone play in it together.
Which video game do you feel never reached the lofty heights of its promised experience? Share your picks in the comments. Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips for MojoPlays, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.